Hello, I'm the Analyst, and normally I'm here to talk about Hollywood's biggest box office flops. And welcome to another episode of What Could Have Flopped. For today's episode, we'll be taking another look at the filmography of Stephen Sommers, who we previously encountered with G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra several months back. And if you know what's coming out this weekend, you can guess what today's episode will be. This is The Mummy. What is it? I can't seem to find the 1999 Mummy. So I guess I'll have to go with the next best thing. Its sequel. This is The Mummy Returns. Coming out 2 years after the original proved to be a major success for Universal, Mr. Sommers returned to the director's chair as well as the writer's chair, as did the leads from the original. Brendan Fraser reprised his role as Rick O'Connell, Rachel Weisz returned as Evelyn, John Hannah as Jonathan Carnahan, Ohad Fair as Ardith Bey, Arnold Vosloo as Imhotep the titular mummy, and Patricia Velasquez Anxunamun. So, how well does this 2001 adventure film hold up 16 years later? Let's take a look. The film opens with Bey narrating the story of the Scorpion King, played by The Rock in his first major theatrical role, who, after a crippling defeat, ended up wiping out his forces, gave his soul to the god Anubis in exchange for vengeance, and the god complied, giving him an army to conquer Egypt before claiming his soul. Zooming to 1933, we see Rick and Evelyn O'Connell, the two having married in between films along with their son Alex, portrayed by first-time actor Freddie Both, in what is undoubtedly his most significant role. Okay, why would you take your son to an ancient temple, considering how these temples can be quite dangerous? And also, Alex is 8, so he needed to be born in 1925 or late 1924. And the first film took place in 1926. Geez, Mr. Sommers can't do math. Or he forgot that it took place in 26 and assumed it took place in 1923. While inside, they discover the bracelet of Anubis, only for them to not be the only ones there, as 3 robbers also arrive seeking the bracelet. However, they flee after a booby trap inside causes a flood, which nearly kills the O'Connells, if not for Alex accidentally causing the pillars to collapse, which frees them. Meanwhile, at the remains of Hamunaptra, cultists dig up the books of the living and the dead, as well as the remains of Imhotep after scarabs kill most of the diggers. Back in London, at the estate of the O'Connells, which they acquired from the treasure they had gotten at the end of the original film, the treasure Benny had tried to take, but failed, Alex wound up putting on the bracelet, seeing a vision of the path to the Temple of Karnak. The cultists attack the house seeking the bracelet, led by Lakna, played by Adewale Akinnuoye Agbe, only for Ardith Bey to intervene, and Bey and Evelyn fight off the cultists while Rick saves Jonathan, whom the cultists have also gone after. However, the cultists capture Evelyn and bring her to the British Museum, as curator Baltus Hafez, played by Alun Armstrong, is the cult leader. Alex reveals he's put the bracelet on, much to Rick's annoyance and Ardith's fear, as because of this the Scorpion King will awaken in 7 days. And this is also the year of the Scorpion.
So that's why they dug up Imhotep, because he's the only guy tough enough to take out the Scorpion King.
Whomever can kill the Scorpion King can send his army back to the underworld, or use it to destroy mankind and rule the earth. That is their plan.
While Rick and Ardith ready their weapons, Ardith notices a tattoo on Rick's arm, meaning that, much like him, Rick is a Magi, something Rick denies. The cultists resurrect Imhotep and attempt to sacrifice Evelyn to strengthen him, but Rick and Ardith attack the ceremony, rescuing her only for Imhotep to send 4 sand mummy creatures against them. fleeing in a double-decker bus as Jonathan couldn't get into Rick's car. Seriously. After the creatures are destroyed, the cultists grab Alex and escape despite Rick's attempts to stop them. At the museum, one of the cultists, Milanese, Patricia Velasquez, reveals that she is the reincarnation of a Nuxuna moon. So, reasonable that they're both played by the same person. And he promises to get Anxuna moon back. Hafez also explains their plot, revealing that the O'Connells have the scepter. We'll see about that. On board the train to Karnak, Imhotep tells Alex that
You do not enter the pyramid before the sun strikes it on that very morning. That the bracelet will suck the life out of you.
Hey, wait a minute. That means I've only got 5 days left.
And then he uses the three robbers from the beginning to reconstitute his skin and powers. Realizing where they're headed, Rick and the group head to Egypt to recruit Izzy, a pilot who had worked with Rick several times before, and gotten shot every time. He is reluctant, refusing Rick's money, but upon seeing the scepter Jonathan is carrying around, agrees to do it in exchange for the scepter. And they set off in a hot air balloon. Alex makes an escape attempt, knowing they can't kill him as he knows the path to Amsher, where he sees the next half of the journey as he had escaped into Karnak, only to be recaptured by Imhotep. Soon after, Imhotep restores Anxunamun through Mila, only to also bring Evelyn memories of her past life as Seti I's daughter, Nefertiri. When Rick, Ardith, and Evelyn catch up to Karnak, they find the abandoned train and a clue Alex had left to allow his parents to follow Imhotep. But Locknot eventually discovers what he is doing, and Imhotep sends a wave after the group in their hot air balloon, which they manage to escape, but as a result, the balloon runs out of fuel. Izzy stays behind to repair the balloon, while the others go after Imhotep to rescue Alex. As the cultists travel through the pygmy-infested woods, the group ambush them, with Jonathan and Evelyn providing long-range fire for Rick and Ardith, who go in close, allowing them to kill Lockna and rescue Alex. Alex reveals the curse of the bracelet, and they rush to the temple, with Rick just getting Alex there in the nick of time before it'd kill him, which releases the bracelet from his arm. However, soon after, Evelyn is fatally wounded by an Xunamun as Bafez takes the bracelet inside the temple. Anubis strips Imhotep of his powers, so it'd be immortal fighting the Scorpion King, whom Hafez brings along with Anubis's army, though the Scorpion King would later kill him. Not a whole lot of gratitude. Ardith Bey depart to join the Magi as they go after Anubis's army, as the bird he had used to communicate with them had been killed by Lockna before it could direct them to Amsher, and the Magi make their stand against Anubis's forces. Rick and Imhotep fight before the Scorpion King arrives and it sucks. Look at him! He barely looks like The Rock. It's a very bad CG scorpion body with what's supposed to be The Rock's face on it. Imhotep claims to be his servant and sends him after Rick to eliminate the competition so he can kill the Scorpion King. Meanwhile, Alex gets to the Book of the Dead and uses it to resurrect Evelyn with Jonathan's help, and upon bringing her back, Evelyn fights off Anxunamun as the Magi realize they are horribly outnumbered against Anubis's forces. Rick finds a picture on the wall and realizes the scepter is in fact a spear, the only weapon capable of killing him, and he accepts himself as a Magi. Jonathan attempts to get the spear to Rick, only for Imhotep to grab it and throw it at the Scorpion King. Rick, however, intercepts it, and before he can fall into a pit of the damned souls, he is able to impale the Scorpion King, killing him and sending his army back to the underworld. saving the remaining Magi. As the temple collapses with the Scorpion King's death, Evelyn saves Rick while Anck-su-namun abandons Imhotep, resulting in the mummy allowing the pit of the dead to claim him, as his lover later falls into a pit of scorpions in her escape, killing her. The group successfully escapes the temple as it and the oasis collapse into nothingness, with Jonathan managing to claim a massive diamond on top of the pyramid, as they're all saved by Izzy, who somehow managed to refuel his balloon. And as Evelyn and Rick embrace, Izzy and Jonathan argue over the diamond as the scepter is no longer in their possession. And that was The Mummy Returns, and there is one crushing issue: the CGI overkill, which is so heavy it distracts from the illusion. Visual effects are supposed to enhance it, not take away from it. And the final fight has a lot of CG, with not just the Scorpion King, as I said above, but also Anubis' warriors, who also look pretty digital. Therefore, it's almost impossible to get immersed in them. There are a few good action sequences, and it's nicely self-aware.
Guys don't use doors.
But the script isn't assembled well enough to truly make this work. Universal would give this sequel a $98 million budget, with another $47 million to market and distribute, for a total cost of $145 million. When The Mummy Returns debuted, it had the second biggest opening weekend of all time at that time, with $68.1 million, marking a 57% bump over the original Mummy, and also earned a solid A- cinema score, which was an improvement on the B the original Mummy got, even if the critical reviews were a bit worse. In its second weekend, the sequel would lose a little over half its audience, which would be one of its steeper drops, as it played out reasonably well through the rest of May, even when facing off against Shrek and Pearl Harbor. The sequel would end up with a domestic run of $202 million, marking a 30% improvement over the original. Overseas, though, was a somewhat different story, as it actually made 11% less than the original, earning $231 million. Now, when a sequel makes less than the original overseas, it also tends to do that domestically. This is a pretty rare case, as if you outgross the predecessor domestically, you tend to do that overseas. As well as the converse case of making less domestically, making more overseas. The biggest market of the film would be Japan, one market in which it actually outgrossed the original, followed by the United Kingdom, Germany, Mexico, South Korea, Spain, France, and Taiwan. The worldwide gross would be $433 million, which is still a 4% improvement over the original. After theaters take their cut of the gross, Universal would see back $191.8 million, making it reasonably profitable for the studio. And how would they continue the franchise? They would wait 7 years to make a third entry, shifting the locale to China and only keeping 2 cast members, Brendan Fraser and John Hannah, and would wind up being the lowest grossing entry of the franchise, having fallen victim to the juggernaut that was The Dark Knight, as well as having Pirates of the Caribbean and the 4th Indiana Jones released in that time to lose some of its luster. And unable to get a 4th film off the ground after these results, Universal decided to press the reboot button for 2017's The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise. Wait, I forgot something. A spin-off of this film came out less than a year later, as in April 2002 we saw The Scorpion King, focusing on the titular character played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which had an unspectacular theatrical run, making $165.3 million on a $60 million budget. That doesn't include marketing, though, which was enough to get 3 direct-to-video sequels, one of which was a prequel. The estimated theatrical profit on this film is $46.8 million. And I know it's not quite as big as the other What Could Have Flopped entries, but hey, profit is profit. Thanks for watching, press the like button, be sure to subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at Tyler the Analyst.
This was my first bus ride.